So we're all aware that Sony and Microsoft had issues during the holidays, and some people woke up on Christmas Day to presents that were pretty much useless, especially if you needed to play online. Now, again, for me personally, during that whole ordeal, whenever all the systems were supposed to be down, I was tweeting out images during Christmas and I was still online. I still had friends online. So personally, I still have not seen Xbox Live go completely down. But I do know that a lot of people did have issues. And me being online, again, doesn't take anything away from those people. But I do want to quickly point out, not to brag too much or anything, but I told you Lizard Squad was full of shit, and that the attacks that they were doing were pretty limited, and that they couldn't carry them on for very long. And sure enough, the system didn't stay offline for that long, at least for Xbox. Xbox wasn't even knocked down a full day after Lizard Squad had claimed that they were going to take it offline for forever. But let me say this. If you're on Xbox Live and you're on PlayStation Network, you're in a contract agreement. You are paying for that service, and it's up to Microsoft and Sony to deliver that service. Now, I've already talked about this a few times over the last few videos. I've told you, I think multiplayer should be free for games because you've already paid for the damn servers whenever you bought the game. The cost of servers is built into the game. You're just paying Sony and Microsoft just to have access to your internet. Microsoft and Sony isn't supplying all the servers for the games you play on. So the idea that you're paying for your servers is ludicrous just for Xbox Live and PlayStation Network. So I've already told you I think multiplayer should be free. But since we are paying for it, Microsoft and Sony are even more obligated to make sure that they deliver this service. And I don't care what happened. I don't care what attack took place. If there is an extended period of time where that service is not available, then we should get reimbursed. That doesn't matter just for Sony and Microsoft. That goes for anything in life. If you sign a contract, if you're paying for a service and you're not getting that service, you better get something back. Or else that contract agreement is pretty much useless and you're just being used. And some people like to be used. I personally don't. You know, if my internet goes down for several hours during the day, I'll call my ISP, and even if it gets back up and running, I'll demand a credit for that day because we had a contract. There were several hours where I couldn't get online, and I've paid for my full month. So if I'm not getting my full month, they're not going to get their full pay. And that's just the way I look at it. So there were some people on Xbox Live who couldn't get on Christmas Day, and Microsoft offered nobody anything for the holiday outage. And even though I was online and it didn't affect me, again, that's pointless. The people who were affected should have been reimbursed. And for Microsoft not to offer anything, shame on you. Because we know that you're not hurting for money. And you acknowledged that there were issues. There's Twitter posts, there's all sorts of posts where everybody knew what was going on. They knew the service wasn't available to lots of people. And if you know that there was a problem, then you should reimburse those people for that problem. So at least with Sony, they did offer something. They offered pretty much a straight exchange for the downtime. Now, some people were upset with the offering from Sony. They said this isn't enough. While there were a lot of people who actually said Sony should be put up on a pedestal and we should praise them because Sony didn't have to offer us anything in return, so everybody should be happy with what they get. So look, I don't look at myself as an entitled person. I don't feel entitled to anything. I'm not an entitled gamer. But Sony's service was down for a larger number of people for a much longer duration of time. Like it was down for 4 or 5 days for some people, while Xbox was down for a mere hours. So to not think that Sony owed you something for those days. During those days, during Christmas, where some parents have slaved all year long just to scrap up enough cash in order to buy their kid the one thing that they wanted for Christmas, those days that families took off for vacation and could have been sitting around taking turns or playing with each other, like my family did on more than a few memorable occasions, for some of you to think that they didn't owe you something for that time, I think is absolutely insane. You better believe they owed you something for those days. So Sony announced that if you were a member of PS Plus on Christmas during this outage, that they were going to give you 5 days onto your PS Plus membership at a date to be decided. And also, sometime in this month, they are going to give all PlayStation Network members a 10% code that is good for a one-time discount off a total cart purchase in the PlayStation Store. So you get a 10% coupon and you get 5 days of your membership, which for some people is the same amount of days that they missed. So it's an even exchange. So if you're wondering about how much value that is for some of you who might have had your Christmas vacation jacked up, 5 days of PS Plus is worth about 65 cents. That's if you bought a 12-month card for $49. And then they're saying, well, we'll also give you a deal if you go spend more money on our network for a limited time, which of course is good to consumers and Sony, who can try to sell you more digital content. And we just did a video on why companies want you to move more to digital. So I'm not really sure that I would put this in the category of best makeup gifts. They weren't obligated to do any more than what they did, but it certainly would have been a nice gesture, I think, especially for such a crucial time and for the length of time. But again, it was 1,000% more than what Microsoft did. But I definitely don't understand people running around flaunting praise over what was given. Post below, do you think it was sufficient what was given for the outage? If you enjoyed this clip, I always appreciate the thumbs up. That does it for me, the Red Dragon. If you want to read more about it, links down in the description box. Stay tuned right here to this channel and to VGN. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.